Good evening. I'd like to call the September 23rd, 2021 meeting of the University Heights City Council to order. Mrs. Thomas, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Blakefield? Here. Mrs. Beery? Here. Mrs. Tuggy? Here. Mrs. Wise? Here. Mr. Ertl?
Here.
Mr. Rock?
Here.
Mr. Gould?
Here. Will all those who are able please rise to the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I'll motion to table the couple minutes as part of the packet.
Very good. We have a motion to table the minutes to the next meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Rock, second by Mrs. Blankfeld. Mrs. Thomas, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Blakefield? Aye. Mrs. Beery? Aye. Mrs. Tuggy? Aye. Mrs. Wise? Aye. Mr. Ertl?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye. Very good. Approval of minutes is tabled. Next item on the agenda is comments from the audience. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. Total time allowed is 15 minutes per meeting, unless otherwise permitted by council under ordinance 91-25. Is there anybody here who would care to address the city this evening? And if so, if you would please come up to the microphone, start by stating your name and address for the record, and then you'll have up to 5 minutes to speak.
Hi, good evening.
Will we get a microphone?
Oh, we're on.
Sure. The speaker's working.
Is it working now?
Yes. There you go.
Hello, we good? Okay. Good evening. My name is Cronin. I live at 2319 Miramar Boulevard. I've been a resident at University Heights since beginning in June of 2003. I'm a current member of Jesu Parish since 2002. Also, I'm currently running for one of the open seats on City Council. I've talked to many University Heights residents over the past several weeks about an issue about issues that are important to them, and it's become apparent that the implementation of the housing code has become one of these issues. I viewed the video of the council meeting on September 9 as was concerned about the content as presented. The comments made by Vice Mayor Weiss, I felt, were without context and background for the entire situation. Let's talk about the facts. The comment stated on September 9th was that City Council is not aware of the use of a private investigator to surveil the property at 4380 University Parkway. This may be true, but in fact, University Heights Police Chief Rogers notified Jewish Federation Security Director Jim Hartnett on August 27th for the possibility of some type of private surveillance occurring in the future area of this location. Also, Police Chief Rogers provided information to JFS Security Hartnett with background that the city and the Alexander Shul are currently parties to litigation. The JFS was notified 11 days prior to September 11th for this possibility of surveillance. The law firm hired by the city, was performing its due diligence to verify information regarding an amended court order issued on July 27th by Cuyahoga County Judge Joan Steinberg, which has allowed this residence, which is commonly known as the Alexander Shul, to continue operations on high holy days and other reference holidays. This amended court order limited the maximum occupancy to, I believe, 46 people, and the investigator documented that at least 50 people were observed entering the house. As such, this would be a violation of the amended court order as issued by Judge Steinberg. Let us remember and to not lose focus as to why the city is in litigation with this residential property. The owners and occupants of the site have not followed the laws and housing codes of the city for almost 3 years. The home is located in the U1 residential district and identified as a one-family residence per City Code 1250. The owners and occupants of 4380 University Parkway have intentionally modified the residence without City Architectural Review Board or City Planning Commission approvals. It was only after residents living in close proximity to the home contacted city officials regarding these activities that the city took action. The owners and occupants then invited Mayor Brennan to visit the home during a religious service. This service included over 50 men in a small basement with a single egress, exposed electrical wires that was an apparent significant fire hazard. Mayor Brennan properly notified the city inspector and fire department to prevent a potentially catastrophic event. Another comment that was made was that because of the rise in hate crimes against the Jewish community over the past few years, the Jewish Federation of Cleveland provides security to patrol all areas where services are conducted. But let's return to the facts. As reported by the Federal Bureau of Investigation last month, anti-Jewish hate crimes have decreased 30% nationwide from 2019 through the end of 2020. In addition, as documented by the University Heights Police Department, the number of anti-Jewish hate crimes from 2016 to 2018 was 7. The number of reported anti-Jewish hate crimes from 2019 to today is 1, which is a vandalism at a local grocery store. These are facts as reported by the FBI and University Heights Police Department.
30 seconds.
The comments about the rise in hate crimes should not be considered. One of our greatest assets of University Heights is its diversity. Our elected officials should not use this diversity as a political bargaining chip in order to drive agendas. This diversity should be celebrated and presented as a model for all surrounding communities, and our city officials should remember that when they speak, they represent all residents of University Heights.
Is there anybody else who would care to address the city this evening? So please come up to the microphone and know you have state your name and address for the record. Please use the microphone as we are recording the meeting.
The name is Paul Miller. I live at 2370 Charney Road. I lived here for 43 years. On 9/11, I was one of a few citizens who walked with our firemen. It was moving. It started with some prayers, the names of every single fireman who died at 9/11 at the World Trade Center were mentioned, and at the end there was a closing ceremony. My strong suggestion is that instead of doing it every 20 years, we do it every year. I don't think every person in this room should ever forget what happened on 9/11. And by doing it, it'll give us one little episode to do, is to never forget what happened. My other strong suggestion is that fire engines shall be draped in black and toward the city. So every single resident will know that they shall never forget what happened. Thank you very much. I'm also running for an open seat on council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Is there anybody else who would like to address the city this evening?
My name is Jim Hubman. I live at 2528 Ashurst Road. I'm here tonight to complain about the dilapidated appearance and lack of care of the property at Vernon and Cedar Road. The addresses are 13888 through 13898 Cedar Road. I personally must average going to Cedar Center 3 to 4 times a week. The amount of trash along the side of the building, the parking lot, and the sidewalk is very unsightly. The cement sidewalk in front of the stores is cracked in several places, and weeds and grass are growing in the cracks. The back lot where garbage dumpsters are stored has major potholes and a ripped plastic curtain hanging. The trash needs to be picked up daily. And I'm asking the mayor and city council to please look into this situation. Why is this commercial area allowed to get away with such poor housekeeping? In my opinion, it is a blight on our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huffman. Mr. Engelbrecht, will you please make a note of that and communicate that to Mr. White, who could not be here this evening?
I will.
Very good. Thank you.
Who's my proposal?
Christine Tunison, 2544 Traymore Road. I've been a resident of University Heights for 29 years, and I'm here tonight simply to observe the conduct of city council members after reviewing the YouTube meeting of 9/9. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dees. Is there anybody else who would care to address the city this evening?
Good evening. My name is Brian King. I lived on 3818 Westwood Road. In keeping with people who are running for council speaking tonight, I am also running for council. Earlier this evening, I attended the safety committee meeting where there was discussion of modifying the city charter in order to modernize the hiring practices of the city. I would also, well, the last time the charter was updated was 2012, and I'd like to propose another change to possibly look into when we look into this further. I've been familiarizing myself with the city charter over the last few months, and I was surprised to see that there were over 58 references to masculine terms in the city charter. I would propose that we modernize the document, this document that's our founding document, to reflect our values and the history of University Heights having strong women leadership. That's all I wanted to say this evening, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Actually, if you could, I was going to say, if you could bring it back up to us. Are we done?
We will, unless there's other people who want to speak. So before we return the microphone to Mrs. Carty, is there anybody else who would care to address the city this evening? All right. Thank you, Mr. Carty. Okay, so moving on to the next item on the agenda. Reports and communications from the mayor and the taking of action. Yesterday, the Heights Hillcrest Communications Center Council of Governments met for the first time since all 5 member cities, University Heights, Cleveland Heights, Shaker Heights, South Euclid, and Richmond Heights, passed their resolutions to formally dissolve the HHCC and to join Chagrin Valley Dispatch. As chairperson of the HHCC Council of Governments, I made the motion to dissolve the HHCC at the end of this year and to transfer the physical assets of the entity to CVD, pending the execution of the new agreements of the 5 HHCC cities with CVD. The soon-to-be former HHCC member cities that will continue to be served by the soon-to-be CVD dispatch center that will remain on 7th Circle have unanimously selected me to represent their interests of that center to the CBD Executive Board in 2022. I am honored to continue to serve the 5 cities in this transformed capacity. By joining this larger PSAP, Public Safety Access Point, not only will our cities save money, but we stand to enhance emergency dispatch services. Most notably, University Heights and the other member cities shall stand to take control of mobile 911 calls, having them handled by our shared dispatch center directly, rather than going downtown before being transferred to our dispatch center. When seconds count, this will save lives. This is a win for University Heights and for all the cities in the region that are or will be taking part in CBD. When we hear the clarion call for regionalism and the efficiencies and improvements in service it may yield, this is the kind of action that answers the call. There are many who may share the credit for this achievement. Executive Director Nick DeSica, Shaker Heights and HHCC Law Director William Gruber, the city councils of all 5 cities and their law directors, my fellow mayors, Shaker Heights Mayor David Weiss, Richmond Heights Mayor David Roach, South Euclid Mayor Georgine Lilo, together with City Manager Susanna Neerman O'Neill, Board Member South Euclid Police Chief Joe Mays, Acting Board Member Cleveland Heights Police Chief Annette Mecklenburg, the various police and fire chiefs of the 5 cities, past board members South Euclid Police Chief Kevin Dieter, Shaker Heights Mayor Earl Lycan, Shaker Heights CAO Jerry Chaikin, Cleveland Heights City Manager Tanisha Bryant, and last but not least, University Heights Mayor Susan Indell. Together, all of our efforts over the last 4+ years are bringing to fruition this accomplishment. I'm gratified to be playing a part in its realization. As this is my first mayor's report since the last regular meeting of June, and especially since we are sitting in a former school building, I feel a little like I'm giving a report on what I did last summer. So I report now, for the record, some personnel changes from the summer. Executive Assistant and Special Projects Coordinator Rachel Mullen has left the city in July to join Secretary of State Frank LaRosa's office as a regional coordinator. We will continue to work with her in that capacity and wish her well in this position. Her successor, who's here tonight, is Ben Shaver, who started with the city in August. Ben comes to the city from Cleveland Metropolitan School District, where he served as a project manager and managed the planning and execution of strategic processes related to priority initiatives, e.g. long-term planning, school reopening, and hybrid learning. He earned his Master of Public Administration with a concentration in state and local management at American University, while working as a policy specialist in state and federal government relations at the National Conference of State Legislatures. Ben has also served as a caseworker and field representative for the office of Congresswoman Betty Sutton and a legislative aide for State Representative Kenny Yukon. After completing his coursework in political science and international studies at Baldwin Wallace University, Ben was an Ohio House Legislative Fellow with the Ohio Legislative Service Commission. Ben brings the wealth of his experience, his empathy, and work ethic to the city, where we are committed to strong and responsive constituent service and planning and implementing the sustainable community that University Heights will be for decades to come. On the day-to-day level, Ben joins a team of professionals working together to continue to reach new heights and success for our community. I look forward to working with him and having you all work with him as part of our open, responsive, and transparent City Hall and administration. In the short time he's been here, he has taken on, with my cook, the Fall Fest, which is scheduled for Sunday, October 10th, as well as becoming the administration's point person on homeowners applying for or having questions about their tax abatement applications under the CRA. There's much more to come, of course. He's only just begun. I also report that for personal reasons, Finance Director Dennis Kennedy has transitioned from full-time to part-time with a salary reduction while continuing to uphold the essential responsibilities of the position through at least the end of this calendar year. I thank Mr. Kennedy for his continued commitment and service to the city for the continuing time being. Planning Commission is scheduled to meet on October 7, 2021. One application up for consideration is the return of the bus depot to the former Wiley site. As we work with the CHUH School District to find ways to make our community assets work better for our shared constituents, I would now notify the public, as was raised at the school board's last meeting, that as we explore the future of municipal facilities in University Heights, that we are working with the school board with respect to how we may involve the Wiley property. Obviously, we're here tonight in a transitional meeting room here at Wiley. This is not for all time, but it is for the foreseeable future. While the report is not yet in final form, one emerging conclusion is that the city's service yard should be relocated off the site of 2300 Warrensville Center Road. Our consultants have worked with the school district's consultants to reach the conclusion that the new bus depot, as proposed, and a possible new city service yard could both fit here on the Wiley property. No decision has been made at this time to do that. Further ways to share and combine resources will be explored by the city and the school district. Coming soon to the Cedar Taylor District, at long last, the former KFC, which has not housed a business since 2008, has had its parking lot repaved and has been remodeled. A new, fast, casual carry-out restaurant brought to us by some of the same people behind Boiler 65's concept restaurant is scheduled to open before year's end. Also, for those of you familiar with Big B's beverage store on Warrensville Center Road in South Euclid, proprietor B. Patel has acquired the old Midas store and is opening his next convenience store there. He has already been before the ARB and will be opening after the first of the year. Though these are private projects, both are happening due to the administration's efforts in the district, both the pressure put on prior ownership of the KFC site and the investment arranged through the CIC we created that selected Knez Builders to build the new South Taylor Place condominium project at the northern end of the University Heights portion of the Cedar Taylor District. By encouraging initial reinvestment in the district, more private investment is following. A victory not only for the city of University Heights, but also Cleveland Heights and their businesses along the western portion of the district. My thanks to the CHUH School Board for sharing in the vision, as well as the CIC board members and the city council members who supported the town-owned project. Since my last report, we received the 2020 census numbers, and for the first time since 1970, our confirmed population has gone up. It is now 13,914 people. As the city continues to promote the construction of new housing, new homes on infill lots, new larger homes where older homes in disrepair have been raised, and the new apartments planned for University Square, our population should continue to grow over the course of this next decade. My thanks to Communications and Civic Coordinator Mike Cook and the City Building and Housing and Community Development Departments for their efforts in 2020 to increase the response rate in our community to the census. We're officially into the fall season now, and it's almost time to celebrate the beautiful homes in University Heights. Nominations are now open in our annual Beautiful Homes contest. To nominate a neighbor or yourself, please send their name, home address, and category via email to info@universityheights.com. Winners will be presented their award at the upcoming Civic Awards Night in November. Categories this year will include curb appeal, best kept secret, which is best backyard, best front door, and 2 in a row, beautiful homes that are next door to each other. New this year will be the Green Award for homes that have beautiful environmental features, such as native plants, butterfly gardens, and solar panels. The deadline to nominate is Friday, October 22nd. In addition, residents are also encouraged to decorate their homes for Halloween again this season, and the Beautiful Home Awards will return this year. If you see a beautifully spooky home, send us an email, and we'll put out an award sign while supplies last. Speaking of being green, several residents have contacted me regarding how they can get involved in environmental initiatives. I'd like to encourage those residents and any others to volunteer to serve on the Mayor's Sustainability Committee. To volunteer, send an email to info@universityheights.com. The committee will be a resident-led movement to develop plans to make University Heights the greenest city in Ohio. Instead of waiting for the state or federal government to act, University Heights will make changes here at home and hopefully encourage other cities to do the same. Due to my personal family situation, I have not yet presented on the administration's plan for the ARPA funds, but tonight I will offer a preview. First, in recognition of the efforts throughout the pandemic in our community as well as the greater community, I will recommend a small donation to the Greater Cleveland Food Bank to aid in their continuing mission. I anticipate an amount within the mayor's spending authority, but it should be a joint decision with City Council. Second, acknowledging the sewer upgrades called for by NURSD in their May 2020 report. Upon the recommendation of City Engineer Joe Cheney and Service Director Jeff Cronin, the city's efforts to begin rehabilitating the sewer system should start by separating the combined manholes. In order to separate the combined manhole system and remove the steel plates that separate the over-under sewers, the storm sewer would be relocated and a new storm-only manhole adjacent to the sanitary manhole would be installed. The storm sewer would be intercepted approximately 50 feet short of the existing combined manhole. Deflected enough to clear the existing combined manhole, attached to a new storm manhole installed, and then deflect back approximately 50 feet to the original alignment, and then repair the street above. The city engineer estimates the approximate cost to separate the manholes, install a new storm-only manhole, and eliminate the steel plates at approximately $20,000 per location. Some locations may require more work due to the presence of other utilities, but $20,000 is a round ballpark number. We would therefore separate approximately 50 manholes for $1 million. The city has approximately 200 to 250 combined manholes in the city. To do them all would exceed both tranches of the ARPA funds for our city. Administration, nevertheless, recommends proceeding with as much of this project as may be permitted utilizing this funding. The Service Director and GPD Group can choose the most needed areas to begin this project, should the city decide to move forward with this project. This will be based in part where flooding that occurs due to the overwhelming of the sewer system during storms has been attributed, in part to combined manholes where utility workers have been prone to remove plates, but have failed to fully restore the plates once they've completed their work, resulting in stormwater overwhelming the sanitary sewer lines. Additionally, GPD advises that they may project where new trenching of sewer separation may be planned so that the new manholes do not become obsolete on further sewer system upgrades. This will be presented more fully in committee. Judging from public comment, I suspect the public is expecting a response from me regarding the commentary at the last meeting that occurred in my absence, regarding the lawsuit between the city and University Realty LLC and related parties. On the advice of the law director, I am reserving specific comment at this time. Instead, tonight, I will recall the remarks I made on January 3rd of this year at the investiture of Judge William Bowden, that we live in a constitutional system of ordered liberty and justice that we call the United States of America. We are, after all, a nation of laws and not men. It is an observation as old as the Republic, made by Founding Father John Adams. This was the American rejection of the divine right of kings and the recognition that the country and the best of what it stands for is greater than any one person. In the weeks following the last presidential election, we saw how the American court system remains the firewall and final bastion to protect democracy and freedom in our nation. That the rule of law triumphed over the rule of one man almost unanimously, regardless of the party of the person who became the judge and heard those cases. When lives are in your hands every day, remembering that you are a part of something bigger and greater, and keeping a sense of proportion of one's place in it, keeping grounded about it, that is paramount. We strive every day to do our best work and to be the best we can under a flawed system that remains the best one we know. I delivered those words on the eve of a violent attempted coup at our nation's capital. Our democracy remains wounded and fragile, and will not survive without a renewal of good faith by its participants, including its elected officials at all levels. I swore an oath to uphold to the best of my ability the Constitution and laws of the United States of America, the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio, and the charter and ordinances of the city of University Heights. As long as I am your mayor, I will follow that oath to the best of my ability and uphold the law evenly for the common good of the entire community. I will not yield to threats, political or otherwise, in discharging that responsibility. End of the quote. Item 8 on the agenda is the pre-construction meeting for residents regarding Knez new home builds for South Taylor Place and 2241 South Green Road. I understand that Michael David of Knez Construction is here. Mr. Jeff Engelbrecht, our Housing and Community Development Director, I believe will also be presenting on this. This particular meeting or item is consistent with the council ordinance with respect to holding a public meeting prior to construction. We turn the floor over to Mr. Engelbrecht and Mr. David. And we get them right.
This one is broken. The one that's making the high pitch.
Okay, all right. You might have to get right up in it. I mean, at least you're wearing a mask, right? Yeah.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Engelbrecht. I'm the Housing and Community Development Director for the city. I have with me Mr. Michael David of Knez, who will be discussing the construction of the South Taylor Place townhomes along with the single-family house at 2241 South Green Road. We are going to be discussing the start times for the construction, what to expect for the residents who may be here, along with who the project manager is and the contact information for the project manager. And after that, any questions from the public in regards to the projects.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for having me here tonight. My name is Michael David with Knez Homes. I'm here to talk about First South Taylor Place. So this is our townhome development going in between Taylor and Wynn Roads. We've currently submitted it for permits. We have a few comments we've received from the building department that we're working through. We have the project currently slated for a first quarter start of next year, probably near the end of the first quarter, so I would anticipate around March that we'll be getting it going. We're going to be starting on the northern side of Wynn, working our way over to Taylor, down Taylor, and then back toward Wynn. You can anticipate, obviously there'll be some construction vehicles, there'll be personnel over there. We will abide by the city's rules for when we can start construction and stop when we have to end construction. Our project manager, his name is Gary Platt. I will provide his contact information to both Jeff and Susan and anyone else with the city who would like it, so that any resident who has any issue, we always endeavor to be good neighbors. So if you have any issues with anything that's going on, don't hesitate to reach out either to the city for Gary's contact information or to Knez directly. Our direct phone number is 440-710-0711. Our contact information is knez.net. If you want to find my contact information or anyone else's, don't hesitate to reach out. With regards to the single family home, we have it going in on 2241 South Green. That was tabled today at Architectural Review Board. They had some comments which our architects are working through. We anticipate to present it at the next scheduled meeting. So if any residents or any members of council have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. David. We don't typically, but we will here because of the contours of the ordinance. We don't typically have public comment during agenda items in the meeting, but because of the uniqueness of this particular agenda item, if there's anybody from the public who would like to comment or provide other feedback with respect to this project, you are welcome at this time to do that. Is there anybody here who would care to make a comment for the record? We have somebody here. Would you come up, please, and come on up to the podium and take the microphone, because we are recording the meeting. We won't want you to do that. And then if you could state your name and address for the record, you may proceed with the comment.
Hello. Ed Watley, 3514 Washington Boulevard.
Say it again.
3514 Washington Boulevard.
Thank you.
I live near the intersection of Superior and Washington. And my question is really for the city officials here. There's a tremendous amount of cars and trucks using Washington Boulevard as a main thoroughfare. And I wrote this down. To access Cedar Road, not to mention the cars that don't stop at the stop signs anymore. I'm sure we all see that. Or traffic lights. In conjunction with this housing project, what is the city officials, what are the city officials, what is being done to reduce the excessive amount of traffic on Washington Boulevard along, in conjunction with the addition of 30 more families? And that's what I want to talk about or ask. So if you don't live in that area, if you do live over that area, Washington Boulevard is like a main or major street coming up Superior Avenue. So we'd like to have some peace and quiet over there for a change. I would suggest you make that a one-way street or close off Superior or do something about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Watley. Is there anybody care to address Mr. Watley's point?
Mayor, I'll just make a comment that.
Yes, Mr. Watley. Can we get on the microphone?
Oh. Thank you for that comment. This is something that was brought up before the Planning Commission and in the council. I think great care needs to be taken with regard to parking, because that is a major thoroughfare through there, and that was a point that we had brought up, that there needs to be ample parking on the site, which there isn't. So people will probably be parking on those side roads. So That's something that you really got to think about.
Thank you, Mr. Rock.
In terms of your, the construction plan, my understanding was that the vehicles were going to be up on the actual construction site, is that right?
Yes.
So there's not gonna be a parade of construction vehicles every morning at, 7 o'clock in the morning as they come. You're storing them on site, you're parking them on site, so once they're there, they're not going to have to transit back and forth.
Absolutely. So the site will act as a staging area. That's why we're working from the northern part of the property over down, so that everything can be contained inside. Obviously, if different crews are showing up, there may be a vehicle or two that are parked on Wynn or on Taylor on any given day, but all materials will be stored on site. Any major construction vehicles, if there have to be any backhoes or anything like that, will all be stored on site. They won't be coming off site, going back on site, anything like that.
And Mayor or Chief, maybe can we make, for the traffic enforcement portions of the comment, is there a way to get some targeted enforcement in that area regarding the blown stop signs and speed?
Chief Rogers, I don't know if you heard the councilman's comment here. Mr. Gould, could you repeat that perhaps?
Yeah, is there a way perhaps in that area to get some targeted enforcement for the blown stop signs and speed that the resident discussed?
Yes, sir. We'll dedicate some resources to that area.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Just for the record, the chief said that he would dedicate some resources to that area. I do happen to know the stop sign that Mr. Watley is referring to, because it's been a while, but I have spoken with Mr. Watley about that particular stop sign. It's funny because I did go through there quite a bit myself, and I think of Mr. Watley every time I approach that stop sign. I think of a complete stop every time. I may not have before, but I do now. Is there anybody else who would care? Ms. Kinnison?
Thank you. I would just like to tag on Mr. Rack's commentary about the parking over at the Taylor Commons, or Taylor.
South Taylor.
South Taylor Place, sorry, thank you. That due to lack of the driveways for all those units, that there has to be a community parking space area and not to be using the side streets, because I don't think it's fair for those citizens living on those roads to have vehicles on the roads or call council or call the city, always asking for permission to park on the street where other residents around the city do not have that ability to do that. So I don't think it should be used as a lenient way to take care of the parking.
I would like to take a moment to weigh in on that, since it's come up now a couple of times, that there have been some informal discussions with the school district with regard to using the parking lot at the Delisle Center during the off hours when Cleveland Heights University Heights school employees are not parking that parking lot. There are no firm plans for that as of this time, but it is something that is being considered and will be looked at further as the site is built.
And Mayor, there were also discussions when we were discussing parking, when we were approving the plan, about looking at the parking cycle and trying to incentivize parking on South Taylor, perhaps by changing some of the hours for parking and the meters even, if necessary, once we kind of knew where people were parking and visiting at that site, to try to get people off of the side street and incentivize to make their long-term parking on a more major thoroughfare than on a side street where residences are.
Yes, that is also discussed. It will continue to be discussed.
Thank you.
Getting back to Mr. Watley's point, Chief Rogers and or Mr. Cheney, did you have anything further to add in connection with points raised by Mr. Watley regarding traffic?
I do not, sir. I have no comment other than that it would be very difficult to close that road or make it one way. It obviously involves Cleveland Heights as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cheney, and thank you, Chief Rogers. Are there any further comments this evening with respect to, I see Mrs. Weiss has her hand raised. Mrs. Weiss?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I just had a question. If, will the residents of Wynn and any other surrounding areas have a pre-construction meeting? I know we've done that with
That's,
Some of the other homes.
that's what the point of this meeting is today, so, if the city requests further meetings, you know, we're happy to bring someone out and answer any additional questions. But that was the intent of this
That was
meeting.
the time of this public meeting. Okay.
And were they noticed in the way that we
Yeah,
discussed that?
that's
Yes, the residents around South Green, we sent out over 20 notices, and the residents around South Taylor Place, we sent out over 30 to Wynn, along with some of the other side streets as well.
Very good, thank you. Are there any other public comments at this time with respect to this project, either from the public or from members of City Council? There's nothing further with respect to comments. Mr. David, Mr. Engelbrecht, do you have anything further?
Just that it's been a pleasure to work with the city. Happy to finally meet everyone in person instead of over Zoom. It's much nicer this way, and look forward to getting started.
Thank you, Mr. David. We look forward as well, and it's good to see you in person too. It's been too long.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. We'll now then move to agenda item B, which is information from Mike Foley, Director of the Cuyahoga County Department of Sustainability regarding electric scooters. See, Mr. Foley is here. Mr. Engelbrecht is also working on this, so they will both go up to the podium. Gentlemen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Foley was requested by council during the last meeting regarding the scooters. So I got in contact with Mr. Foley, and he's here to answer any specific questions that council may have regarding the county scooter program.
Thanks, Greg, and thanks, Mayor, and thanks, members of City Council. Just a kind of brief overview, just if I can do just a quick 10,000-foot shot of what we're working on. So, as you may know, many cities across the country, across the world, scooters are becoming this thing. You know, it used to be bikes and bike share, and kind of electric bikes have kind of come in now, but scooters have become kind of the popular mode of transportation for multi-mobility devices, is what they're called. And so we in the county were interested in bringing, especially bike share into the region. In 2016, we were able to get money from NOACA to help create a bike share network. You may remember the UH bike system that was out there, the red bikes that were running around. So we had a contract with a company called CycleHop, who ran that system for about 5 years. And was pretty successful. We had about 60,000 rides over the course of 5 years with those bikes. Those bikes, they don't make anymore. It's kind of the single kind of regular bikes to run around within these bike share systems. They're just not popular, and kind of scooters have kind of taken over the whole kind of discourse in terms of multi-mobility. So we kind of refreshed our regulations at the county level and allowed scooters to come into the county. You know, I worked for the county, and I wanted to make sure that while the scooter companies were interested in being in those kind of condensed places like the city of Cleveland, we wanted to make sure that where the suburbs were interested in taking advantage of this, if they could. So part of our regulations or requirements with the scooter companies are that where we license them, they have to make scooters available to cities who we do a memorandum of understanding with. So right now we have 4 cities that we're working with, east side suburbs basically. And one of the things that the scooter companies what they were interested in is that they were somewhat contiguous to cities we're working in. So they've got operational issues. They need to take scooters up, move them to different cities, different rebalancing sites. So at least for right now, we've got East Cleveland, Euclid, South Euclid, and Cleveland Heights, who have all signed memorandum MOUs with the county. And we'd love to have University Heights, obviously. It makes sense, we think. So we started off in over Labor Day. So the program's been running in the 4 suburbs for 20 days now. So far, pretty good. Kind of minor complaints here and there about people leaving scooters on, sidewalks or in front of yards, but for the most part, it's gone fairly well. I talked to just one scooter company before I got here today. So they've had over 1,200 individual rides in 3 weeks on one of the scooter companies, just between the 4 cities. They seem to be popular, and the cities so far haven't had any major issues with any of the scooter companies. The scooter companies, just so you know, the regulations are they have to, if they get a complaint from us or get a complaint from one of the cities, they've got, if it's during work days, they've got like 3 hours to come and fix the problem, move a scooter, put it back in the right place. If it's at night, then they need to do it the next day. But they're pretty conscientious about this, mostly because they want this to work as well. Right? This is how they make their money. For the most part, I think it's working out fine, working out well. And as I said, we'd love to have University Heights get into the program, and I think the scooter companies would as well. I think talked to a different company, and I said they think there's a lot of potential growth with University Heights joining the program. So with that, I'm more than willing to take any questions. I know a couple questions were around speed limits and no-go zones or slow-go zones, and I can answer. One is, so the speed limit is 15 miles an hour, so it's the county rule, and that's consistent across both the city of Cleveland and the suburbs. And each one of these scooters has their own GPS device in it, so the scooter companies can basically say where it can go and where it cannot go. So you have like a place where you don't want scooters to be for a time being, a parade or something like that for a weekend. We can just let the scooter companies know they will know not to allow scooters to go into that area. So more than willing to take any other questions that folks have.
You just answered mine. I was questioning about what the policy was for geofencing.
So we'll start. Mr. Foley, on the issue of geofencing, could you talk about how specific that technology is? When we had the last committee meeting, it's our intention to have a period of trial for the scooters in University Heights to work out what issues our citizens may have with them. And as part of that trial, we wanted to have really all of our residential zones blocked off from usage. And so moving from east to west, Cedar, Fairmount, Meadowbrook, as east to west thoroughfares, and throwing out some examples, South Taylor, South Green, Warrensville Center as north-south thoroughfares. And we really wanted to travel along those areas only, and then we basically, if you were thinking about a map, if you were geo-blocking, there would be large blocks within our residential areas between those thoroughfares. Your turn off of Cedar into a residential street, how far down that block do I get before the vehicle or the scooter is disabled?
It's pretty good, just so you know. So you may get 10, 15, 20 feet down the road, and then it'll start slowing down. It's not going to stop all of a sudden. But, so if you've got a, pretty distinct line where you don't want someone riding to, it's not perfect, but it's, within 10, 15 feet of where you draw that line at. And the companies, they do this all over the world, so they've developed this technology pretty well.
And then is there a structure available for the park and no-go zones? Because in our city, you have these large thoroughfares immediately next to residential areas, and I know the complaints that the city's going to get, that the council's going to get, when people are riding off of those thoroughfares and someone dumps a commercial scooter for the afternoon in someone's front yard. And so the two things on that were, one, can we impose a fine? So scooter ABC 123 was left in the front yard. Whoever was riding that, we would like to fine this amount of money. Or B, is there a mechanism within your master contract with the providers that would allow our officers to impound that vehicle because it was an area it shouldn't be? Or is that what you try to take to tackle with your 2 to 3 hour response time?
Yeah, we've tried to encourage. We are encouraging and pushing and forcing basically the scooter companies. If someone's messing up and they do the wrong thing, then you got to go fix that and pick up the scooter and put it in a rebalancing center somewhere else. Okay. Can you do your own fine? I suppose you could. None of the other cities are doing that. They have upgraded their traffic codes, so you you kind of treat these like bikes in some respects. So if, you know, the biking laws, pedestrian laws, you know, the cities have upgraded to include micro-mobility devices in terminal art, right? So you can do that, and we've got a template on kind of legislation for that. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't looked at them enough or don't know them well enough to know whether they allow fines for someone who has a bike or a micro-mobility device, leaving it in someone's yard, whether they can fine. I mean, I think there's probably other sections of your code, basically littering or something like that that you could fine someone. In terms of our penalties in terms of the companies, if the companies are screwing up and not, basically we can remove their license. So it's just kind of, you guys got to get your act together. If you don't get your act together for your license, you can't operate.
So would you give our officers the ability to make that 2-hour contact? So will they have the contact information at dispatch to know there's hey, sorry, Mr. Gould, we're going to send someone out to your property. They should be there within 3 hours. Please call us back if they're not, so our citizens know the response time and who's responsible.
Yeah, all the vendors have to have a local contact, a local operations person. Okay. Plus, they've also got a step. They hire people to go and charge scooters up, pick them up and put them back in these rebalancing zones. One of being all over the place and kind of disorganized chaos in some cities. So we've tried to, cities across the country and the world have tried to kind of minimize that. So one of the suggestions or kind of rules of thumb is you create these rebalancing zones where scooter companies have to pick devices up where they're not in a place that is normally going to be known where there's going to be scooters at. It's got over 200 of them. So it's normal places where scooters should be rebalanced on a daily basis.
And then 2 more issues, and then Mayor, I'll yield the time back. One was an issue of age. Is there a way for us to ensure that only people above the age of 16, for instance, are able to rent these so that individual elementary school children coming back, middle school kids coming back aren't riding their scooters and joyriding in the streets?
Yeah, the scooter companies do that. So they'll require you to put your, take a picture of your driver's license and upload it into the system.
Okay, and that's 16 plus?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, I guess I'll make a comment then to in closing, which was when we're talking about the fine, Mr. McConville, I think what I'd like to see happen in terms of the draft legislation, because our intent was to have this for a period of time going into the winter, and then they stopped this program basically in the winter. Is that right?
They'll keep some out. So they'll take 3/4 of the scooters off. So there may be a couple of them.
Rather than a fine structure, Mr. McConville, I think initially what I'd like to see is how well the response time is from the scooter companies, because I think it's a lot less administrative burden, a lot less prosecutorial burden to have somebody else come and just fix the problem than to fine for the problem, just to try to prevent it. So if we can kind of put that into our draft, our intent when last we met, just to say is that by the sometime in either the first or second meeting in October, start this so we can get these scooters on the street and see what problems arise and then stop them if necessary after 3 months. So, thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Gould. Mrs. Weiss, I know you have raised your hand. You still quick?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. First of all, I want to thank you for coming. And it was very short notice. We just had our meeting last week, so
no problem.
So just for the rest of the audience, we had come to the whole meeting, and we actually went through a number of issues and really hammered out a great pilot program, I feel, that, Councilman Gould just mentioned, that hopefully in the next council meeting or two, we can get this going and see where it takes us. I had a couple just clarifying questions. Mr. Gould actually asked one of them, but I've already gotten a call. I have a scooter on my front lawn. So how do the other cities geofence, right? So if South Euclid, we're by 4 or 5 other cities, across the street and you're in another city. Are they not geofencing, and that's how those scooters are getting so far into University Heights?
Yeah, so University Heights is right now not geofenced, just so you know. We can do that if you want us to do that, but I think we wanted to, I think we understood that University Heights was thinking about this, right? And if someone's crossing the street from South Euclid or Cleveland Heights and then University Heights, we didn't want their scooter to stop all of a sudden, right? 100 feet into the city. So, so we have allowed it to go, I don't know, somewhat into University Heights, and haven't geofenced it off yet. So, if you guys want us to do that, we can do that.
To University Heights, which we have a plan anyways to do, then that will encompass all of the surrounding cities.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I guess my other question was, once a scooter goes into another city that is part of this program, does the city get that ride fee, or does it stop with the other city?
Yeah, so the ride fee is 15 cents per ride, where the ride originates from. So it's just kind of an easier way to keep track of this.
Okay, yeah, thank you, those are my questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Weiss. We don't typically entertain audience questions at this portion of the meeting. Mr. Foley, do you have any objections? Do you have any questions from the public? Okay, well then, Mrs. Johnson, you may ask your question.
I think you answered one question as to how the scooters are showing up in University Heights. I noticed that there were 2 of them sitting out in front of Whole Foods the other day. So answer that in regards to crossing over the city boundary line. So these scooters, are they on the sidewalks, streets, or in the bike lanes?
So they can ride on all 3. You can decide what you want. The city can make decisions about, do we have a commercial district that we don't want them riding on the sidewalks, right? So just run bike lanes or in the streets. Those are decisions that the city will make.
Yeah, Mr. Foley, just for clarification, I believe in downtown Cleveland they are not to be ridden on the sidewalks. They're parked there, but general riding is to be in the street.
That is correct.
Yeah, my concern would be pedestrians having a scooter coming up behind them without notice. I mean, we have issues with bicyclists doing that, not honking a horn or something and scaring the living daylights out of people on the street. And then my other question was, in the 15 miles per hour, are the scooters governed, or the max they can go is 15?
Yeah, I mean, they can go a lot faster. When they kind of did a pilot program initially, and they kept it at 12 and a half miles. And then they said, looks like it's going okay, and 15 is what cities across, the Midwest and the United States kind of cap them at. So we went.
Or they can be overridden.
Yeah, the scooter companies basically can cap how fast they can go.
Okay.
Because they have these GPS systems on.
To not go faster than 15 miles per hour. I think the confusion may be that the scooter model may technically be a user to speed over 15 miles per hour on these scooters, correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Discussed or where they were to be ridden. And right now it's illegal to ride a scooter in the street in University Heights. And so the legislation that the law director is working on right now would eliminate that provision for the trial period at least, so that it was, we have a lot of trees in University Heights. Sometimes there's a bumpy, sidewalk. We wanted to make sure that we eliminated any private cause of action in University Heights so that none of our citizens would be liable if someone comes up onto their sidewalk and, some 17-year-old, spills over and breaks an arm, or the commercial areas, so that you can ride up to Whole Foods and stop on the sidewalk, but you can't go into Dollar Tree to Goodwill by riding into the parking lot where it's a little bit more difficult to maneuver, a little bit more scary. We just wanted to avoid accidents. So again, trying to bring people onto the street. If they get onto the sidewalk, waiving liability for any of our citizens and keeping them out of parking lots.
One other component that hasn't been mentioned yet that council discussed in some detail is creating a limit on the total number of scooters that are operable within the city. I want to say that the limit was 20.
It was 5 for each.
Yes, I'm a little curious about what other cities are doing in that regard.
Yeah, so we did 10 for South Euclid, and then they have to be rebalanced every day. I mean, so if someone drives a scooter between South Euclid and East Cleveland or Cleveland Heights, then all of a sudden you're going to have 41 there, right? So it's not like all of a sudden we're going to, penalize you. But we said, you need 10 devices in each one. And if you want to go higher than that, just give us a call or call the city and say, hey, things are looking good here and things are going okay. Can we add more scooters, right? So It's just kind of this, agreement between the scooter companies and the cities that if they wanted to do more, then they would call the city. But right now it's 10 per company. And if you want something different than that, then just let us know. We can organize that. The other thing is the scooter companies do have like operations folks here, and we would give you guys their numbers, and if there's any individual problems with any of the scooter companies. They really are trying to be conscientious about this, especially starting off in kind of a number of new cities in the east side.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Foley. I see Mr. Miller has a question.
I have just one question.
Could you get a microphone to Mr. Miller so that he can be recorded?
Sure. Helmets. First of all, do any cities across this country require helmets to be worn when they're on these scooters?
Any across the country? I can't tell you. I know Cleveland is not. And the scooter companies encourage it. So I don't know, in terms of helmet laws, right? Cities have different helmet laws. The city of Cleveland doesn't require helmets for scooter riders. And I don't believe any of the four suburbs that we're working with require them either. The scooter companies encourage it, so on your app, when you sign up, you're putting in your date of birth, your credit card number, you'll get information. Right, there's rules of the road, please adhere to the rules of the road. We encourage you to use helmets, but in terms of a hard and fast rule, they're not required.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Since we did open up to the public, is there anybody else here who would like to ask questions fully with regard to this presentation?
How do we pay for them?
Mr. Foley, would you go over how the...
So it's on a phone app, or iPhone, whatever. You download an app from the company, and you will pay through that app with your credit card. And it's different for each company. So, like for one of the companies, it's like $1.25 to unlock. So, we did a thing at Notre Dame College last week with college students. One of the TV stations wanted to do a thing, and for one of them, it was like $7 to use it. More than the other, you just do that.
Yeah, I myself, I only downloaded Third in Line, and when I was downtown, it was an official endorsement from the city. Yeah, endorsement, just going over my experience.
You can go. I don't know how well those are utilized. Get like phone cards or not phone cards, but something to.
Very good. Any final questions?
I mean, are they driving at night? I mean, how do we
identify
these things?
Yeah, so we've got there's headlights, tail light, right?
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foley. Appreciate you coming out in person to address them.
But also, like hiring Ben Schaefer is a good move. I was in the legislature. Ben was a legislative service committee. He's really good, so I just want to compliment you.
He just ordering everything. Thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is item C, a motion to approve appraisal and consulting proposal from Jim Huber of Britley Huber LLC regarding University Square Shopping Center at 2203 Warrenville Center Road. Mr. McConaughey.
Sure. Items C and D are appraisal proposals from Jim Huber and Whitley Huber relating to University Square development. One is seeking a parcel, and the other is seeking an appraisal of the core retail parcel, which is the portion of that development that's vacant and that fronts on Cedar Road in between the parking bases. Want me to elaborate on the purposes there? Or?
Sure, good for you.
The city has sought development of this parcel for some time, and in particular has been engaged with a development company that has plans to purchase the core retail parcel and to turn that parcel into essentially housing units. The site, including the parking garage, is governed by an agreement, a contract that is among Target, Macy's, and the current owner of the core retail parcel, which is the bondholders, who foreclosed on that parcel many years ago. That agreement that they are bound by contains some restrictive easements on use of the property. And one of the things that is prohibited on the property is residential housing. So in order for the development to proceed, parties must agree to modify their agreement to allow that use. And that means the developer has to get the agreement of the Target and Macy's in order to proceed with the project. Target has been amenable to that, has negotiated a full amendment to that agreement, and is on board. The developer and Macy's, on the other hand, have not been able to reach an agreement and have been trying for some time. It is, I want to make this very clear, a process that is ongoing. The parties are still attempting to negotiate that agreement. The city has become increasingly concerned because it has taken so long. And so, as part of exploring potential options for the site, if the deal falls through, and I want to emphasize that conditional, if the deal falls through, the city might want to consider eminent domain proceedings. And so, in that vein, we are seeking to have the properties appraised and to see what they're worth, and to determine whether or not they are, from a legal perspective, liable. I also want to emphasize that the city has no desire to acquire and hold these properties. This would be a much more detailed and complicated process of planning to facilitate the development and having the developer lined up to purchase the property from the city. This is only a first step, and this is a reflection of the lengthy delay and the desire on the part of the city not to be simply standing idly by as we have become increasingly concerned with failure of the parties to reach an agreement.
Thank you, Mr. McConaughey. Just to elaborate further on the issue of further clarification. We are not today announcing that we are taking University Square through eminent domain. But what we are doing is preparing for that possibility should it come to that. We have right now a situation where the only thing standing in the way between the developers completing the plans they proposed to the city that we've entered into a development agreement for, that we negotiated a new TIF with the school district for, that Target has come to terms with, that the only thing standing in the way is Macy's and the developers coming to terms. And while they are not at a stalemate, they are continuing to negotiate. It has taken longer, and there is reason for us to want to hedge our bets here and be ready to proceed with an eminent domain proceeding if necessary. And because an appraisal of the property is necessary in preparation of that, that is why these proposals are here before us today.
Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Booth.
I appreciate the updates that you've given to council as this has moved forward. I think frankly that you and the law director are being quite generous to Macy's when you describe this as an issue of the developer and Macy's. This is a Macy's issue and not a developer issue. The developer came to the city council, presented its plan, and worked diligently with you and with Target with full notice to Macy's of its plan for that site, to work collaboratively over a period over a year to come up with a solid agreement for the site. And when Target and the developer finally reached that, Macy's had given the appearance that they were going to sign on to whatever deal got done.
That is correct.
And then all of a sudden, at the end, says, oh no, we want
this and that, and we want all these other things, when they could have participated in the collaborative process for over a year. And so while I agree with you that today is not an announcement of eminent domain, the city cannot allow that site to be kept in its current condition. And the owners of that property have made clear that they don't have the resources or intend to utilize the resources to make the necessary improvements to make that a safe, non-blighted site. Walking through there, I, as a council person, have serious concerns about the safety of that site and the way that it has been maintained. I have full confidence in the developer and in Target to make the appropriate repairs and upgrades as they have outlined in their plan if they were to get a deal with Macy's. And if Macy's is going to stop them from doing that, the city has to step in, and I appreciate the administration and the law director putting this together so that Macy's, if they continue to delay us, that the city has a plan to come up with that.
Thank you, Mr. Gould. And I appreciate your pointedness here because it is on point. And Macy's has been an impediment to this process and to this project. And but for Macy's delay and lack of cooperation, they are at the table now. That I can give them. But beyond that, they are not acting with the degree of urgency that is appropriate. And yes, the current owners of the University Square parcels never intended to hold on to these parcels for as long as they've had. And they are out of money. They are out of resources to devote to these parcels. And there is a concern about the blight and the safety. Our fire prevention bureau has been out there. Our building inspectors have been out there. And there will soon be a report with respect to what must be done to ensure the safety of the public. Nobody wants a Surfside Miami at University Heights. And we'll be damn sure it doesn't happen. Maybe I'll have a question. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the appraisal and consulting proposal from Jim Huber, Revenue LLC regarding University Square Center, restricting 2031 Will Center Road.
Very good. Motion by Mr. Gould, second by, was that Mrs. Michael?
No,
Mrs. Perry. Okay, second by Mrs. Perry. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, we call the roll.
Mrs. Michael? Aye. Mrs. Berry? Aye. Mrs. Pardee?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mr. Erdl?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
All ayes and the ayes have it. Motion carries. Next item is item D, motion to approve appraisal and consulting proposal from Jim Huber, Ridley Huber LLC regarding University Square parking garage 14060 Cedar Road. Just for efficiency here, I'll take this unless Mr. McConville has something to add. Basically, there are two separate quotes here. One is for the shopping parcel, and then one is for the parking garage itself. It made sense to the appraiser that the two items be divided out. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Michael? Aye. Mrs. Berry? Aye. Mrs. Pardee?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mr. Erdl?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
All ayes, and the motion carries. Next is item E, resolution 2021-29, accepting the amounts of rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to county fiscal officer. This is on second reading. Mr. Kennedy, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an annual requirement. We have to file this to the county by September 30th. So the tax rates will be set for next year. There are no increases proposed. So the tax rates will be the same as they have been in effect this current year. Again, this is on second reading.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Any questions for Mr. Kennedy? And if not,
It's a second reading, but
I would prefer it be on emergency just so it's in effect.
Okay.
Resolutions and ordinances on Ohio are equivalent. They are the same.
Okay, very good. Well then, Mrs. Weiss, would you agree to amend your motion to be on emergency?
Yes.
And second, Lorraine? Yes. Very good. Okay, so the motion is now on emergency. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, because it is on second reading, it doesn't require suspension of the rules, but it does require a vote of 5. So, Mrs. Thomas, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Wendell? Aye. Mrs. Berry? Aye. Mrs. Cronin? Aye. Mrs. Weiss? Aye. Mr. Erdl?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye. All ayes, and the motion carries. Thank you. Next is item F, resolution 2021-36, authorizing the mayor to seek financial assistance from the Ohio Public Works Commission Aquatic State Public Works Program to fund a capital infrastructure improvement project and declaring an emergency. City Engineer, Mr. Cuney, you have the floor, sir. He'll lead a microphone.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mayor. This is an application to the Ohio Public Works Commission for the resurfacing of Warrenville Center Road. We did submit this last year, and it did not score high enough, so we are resubmitting it here. It is required as part of the application that City Council authorize the mayor to apply for the funding. This is approximately a $1.9 million project. The local share is $250,000. We also have $250,000 committed from Cedar County funding for the rest of the job. So I recommend we pass this so we will submit it for your.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Cuney. Are there any questions for Mr. Cuney? Mrs. Flango.
So, Mr. Cuney, if we're applying for this grant, we did not get it last year?
That's correct. It's a scoring system, and they have approximately $29 million in our local district to give out, and you have to, obviously, it's very competitive.
Okay, can you explain why we didn't? I'm curious. Did they tell you, or did they just tell you?
No, you get your scores, and we did look at those scores. We tried to, comply with, and it's based on condition, number of users, and economic development, and so we tweaked the grant a little bit in the write-up. If we do not receive it, then I would recommend we look for other funding. It is a county highway, it is south, and I would not recommend spending local funds to do this entire project. Whether we go to NOAC or go back to the county and ask for more money or something like that. This is one of the avenues, though, and I think we should.
It may be appropriate at this moment in time, because we're talking about funding, Mr. Cuney, just to talk briefly about the next item on the agenda, which is related, which is the county contract, and to talk about your specific recommendation in that because of the funding. Obviously, we're going to consider that next, but just so that council has context.
The next item on the agenda is authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement of cooperation with Cuyahoga County for that $250,000 that they have committed toward the project. And my recommendation is to put it on first reading or table it at this time. I think you said first reading would be better, Luke. And wait to see how the grant comes out, because we don't want to accept the funding and then we only have $500,000 toward a $1.9 million job. I would think that would be prudent at this time, and and I would be in contact with the county, telling them what we're doing on that.
And just to clarify, my recommendation on that item would be both to have a first reading and to table, so that we can bring it up the table on a second reading once we find out whether we're successful in this application.
And we will know sometime around Christmas time, or in the middle of December, if we're successful on the application.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. McConnell. Thank you, Mr. Cuney. Thank you, Mrs. Blankfeld, and we'll go to Mr. Gould.
Mr. Cuney, are the costs of that project set? Meaning, was there a certain project cost earlier this year and now a current project cost, and in December could there be a different project cost? Can you kind of go over those? The
costs are based on my engineer's estimate of the job.
I based it basically on the Shaker Heights job, which is going on right now, as you know, from Fairmount Circle all the way down to, past Cedar Boulevard there. That section of the job was about $2.5 million for their project. They skipped the bridge there over the tracks, and they skipped through the Van Aken district there, so it's approximately 1.5 miles, maybe a little less than that. And there are only 4 lanes. Our section is 5 lanes wide, and it's exactly 1 mile. So I had the bid tab and the cost for that, and the project is very similar. Lineal feet of curb, square yards of asphalt, things like that, and that's what I use for my estimate. With the pandemic and with costs, nothing's guaranteed, is all I can tell you. But I think, we escalated the cost based on current pricing. And I would hope it would come down, but you don't know.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Cheney. Any other questions for Mr. Cheney? Any comments or discussion? And not, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, very good. We have a motion by Mrs. Blankenfeld on emergency.
Yes, please, on emergency.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Blankenfeld on emergency to authorize the mayor to seek financial assistance from the Ohio Public Works Commission, Opwick State Public Works Program to fund a capital and construction improvement project and declaring an emergency. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Berry. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we will take 2 votes. First is on suspension of the rules. Mrs. Thomas, will you please call the roll on the suspension of the rules?
Mrs. Blankenship.
Aye.
Mrs. Berry.
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee.
Aye.
Mrs. Wise.
Aye.
Mr. Ertl.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye. Okay, all ayes on the suspension, and then on the main motion.
Mrs. Blankenship.
Aye.
Mrs. Berry.
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee.
Aye.
Mrs. Wise.
Aye.
Mr. Ertl.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye. Very good, motion carries. We now move to item G. Ordinance 2021-37, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Cuyahoga County, Ohio for the resurfacing of Warrensville Center Road from Fairmount Boulevard to Cedar Road in the city of University Heights on the terms and conditions set forth therein, requesting the cooperation of Cuyahoga County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Cheney, do you want to speak on this, or?
Are there any other questions?
I can, we already did kind of address this in the previous agenda item. We are treating this on first reading rather than seeking to declare an emergency and pass it today, because we do not want to necessarily commit to doing the project until we have heard back from Opwick. So as relayed previously by the law director, the recommendation here is not only that we hear this now on first reading, but that we also entertain a motion to table ordinance 2021-37 until such time as we hear back from Opwick with regard to their determination regarding our application.
Correct.
Very good. We have a motion to table accordingly by Mrs. Pardee. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. Pruitt. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll on the motion to table?
Mrs. Blankenship.
Aye.
Mrs. Berry.
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee.
Aye.
Mrs. Wise.
Aye.
Mr. Ertl.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye. Very good. The item is tabled until such time as we heard back from Opwick on our application. Next is item H. Motion authorizing the mayor to enter into contract with Parks Tree Incorporated of Eastlake for the 2021-22 tree, 2021-1, because that's the phase, right? 2021-1 tree pruning and removal contract in an amount not to exceed $31,210. Mr. Cronin, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. This item, we received authorization to bid it a month or so ago. We opened bids on September 10th, and only one bidder, Parks Tree from Eastlake, Ohio, provided a bid. We have worked with them before. They've done several of our tree pruning projects, and I am recommending the award to them. However, there are some additional trees that came up recently that need to be addressed as well that were not on our contract list. One of them is a tree on Hadley, which is tipping over a very large linden, and right now it's at approximately a 10-degree tip, but at any time with the storms and whatnot going on, it could go over. We also have two other dead trees that weren't on the list that we'd also like to add. So I'm requesting to add $9,000 to this bid, which is because they're all removals. The bid had a lot of tree, stump grinding and other work in it, but if you look at the removals of the large trees, they were approximately $3,000 each. So I'm requesting 3 trees at $3,000, an additional $9,000 to the 31,210 for a total of $40,210.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Cronin. Are there any questions for Mr. Cronin? If not, is there a motion to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with Park Street Incorporated of Eastlake for the 2021-1 tree pruning and removal contract in the amount not to exceed the revised amount of $40,210? So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Erdl, second by Mr. Gould. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Wakefield. Aye. Mrs. Berry. Aye. Mrs. Pardee.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss. Aye. Mr. Erdl.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Okay, very good, motion carries. Next is item I, motion to accept and award contract for 2021-2023 Service Department temporary labor staffing to Minutemen Staffing in an amount not to exceed $91,514.50. Mr. Corning.
Thank you again, Mayor. This item is for the leaf raking labor that we have. We also have other items that we may use labor in an emergency. We had come to council previously with a single bid from Minutemen Staffing, and I was requested to try to contact some additional companies for labor. I did. I contacted Tradesmen International, Area Temps, Robert Half, Integrity Staffing, and Adecco Staffing. By mailing them or emailing them a notice of the city's public bid and documents. Of those 2 companies, I heard from 2 of them. Both of them had indicated that they were not interested in bidding, but if I had changed what type of staffing we needed, in other words, more professional staffing, they would be able to fill that need, but not the labor staffing. So I am recommending the one bid that we received from Minutemen Staffing for $91,514 for the years 2021, 2022, and 2023. The money will be coming from the tree fund.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Corning. Just for clarification, this bid is identical to the bid previously submitted by Minutemen?
That is correct. They actually, the form is identical. They did not change anything on it.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Corning?
Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Gould.
It's a psychosomatic.
I didn't use
microphone. It's still off. I just, Mayor, I just wanted to thank Mr. Precorni. I know when last we were here to ask him to go back out to bid, did cause more administrative, effort. I think one of the things that I am aware of is that in order to be expedient and get things out to council, sometimes we don't see things until just before our meeting, or it comes in our packet, so it hasn't gone through our committee process. So when we do have a question or a concern, we ask for that, and it's the only option we have is to say no to this thing because we want to get that additional information. For you to come back with the plan that you did, who you contacted, and also I think some important information of why these other companies aren't bidding. It's not a professional type temp agency. This is more labor, and it really gives me confidence in voting for this. So I just wanted to thank you for doing that.
Can I have that, please? Excuse me. All right, thank you, Mr. Gould. Mr. Erdl, you have the floor, sir.
A quick question. In the hiring process, is there a means to screen for felons?
Actually, our bid documents require background checks and drug testing before they offer those people to us. We also have the ability to reject any person who has been sent to us, and they will have to fill that position with another.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Erdl. Thank you, Mr. Corning. Any further questions for Mr. Corning? Is there a motion to accept and award the contract for the 2021-2023 Service Department temporary labor staffing and Minutemen Staffing in the amount not to exceed $91,514.50?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Rock. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Blankenship. Aye. Mrs. Berry. Aye. Mrs. Pardee. Aye. Mrs. Wise. Aye. Mr. Earl.
Aye.
Mr. Rod.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye. Very good, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Next is item J, motion to enter executive session for purpose discussing legal proceedings, personnel, and real estate matters. The administration has nothing at this time that it wishes to ask the council to enter into an executive session for. So, with that said, we will now turn to the director's reports, and we'll begin with finance. Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to give council an update on municipal income tax collections. As I said at the last meeting, once we get into September, we'll have a better idea where we compare to last year, because of the last year, filing date is August 15th. This year we went back to the traditional April 15th date. So I'll give you some numbers here. Things look good. As of today, we have received $8,147,448 in income tax receipts from RETA. That amount reflects withholding, net profit, and individual tax payments processed by the agency through August 31st, 2021. Last year at the same time, we had recorded a total of $7,216,000. Recent collections received this year over 2020 is $930,072, which represents an annual increase so far year to date of 12.9%. Withholding collections in 2021 amount to $3.64 million. Last year's withholding taxes at this time had produced $3.4 million. Individual collections this year total 4.2 payments were $3.6 million. Net profits, which is the lowest source of revenue for the city, are up approximately $46,000 year over year this year versus last. So I will get you some more detail on that when we close the month of September out. But I promised that to you. I also had forwarded everybody the presentation from the county on the whole reappraisal process. Those notices are going out, so everyone should kind of be aware of the fact that some residents may be contacting city representatives to inquire as to the relevance of their increase and how that impacts them. I'd encourage any of the residents that have inquiries about the relationship to what their tax bills will be. The county has a tax estimator on their website on the fiscal officer page. I would suggest you go to that and put in your new values. And by city, then it'll calculate what those taxes are for next year. So you get an idea of if there is an increase in your tax, what the potential could be. And anybody, again, that wants to appeal their values, the county is not holding an informal meeting process this year. So anybody that wants to appeal their property values will have to go through the board of revision. That process begins January 1st, closes March 31st. So if anybody needs any help on that, please give me a call and I can walk you through that process to help folks out in the event that they want to file any kind of complaints or inquiries to the county. And I'll be back the next meeting for some appropriation changes. That'll be subsequent to the ARPA discussion. And we have some other minor adjustments we have to do for appropriations at this point in the year. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kennedy. And just to reinforce something that you said, any revaluation of real property in the city of University Heights regarding this process is nothing that was done by this city government, not by the city council, not by the administration. This is purely a county budget, correct?
Statutory requirement of the county.
Right, of the county. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Any questions for Mr. Kennedy? Seeing none, we will then move on to Director of Law, Mr. Cronin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief, council, and confirm for you that I'll have several ordinances for you at the next meeting, including an ordinance regulating the tethering of dogs that arose out of our safety committee meeting earlier this evening. I will coordinate with prosecutor on reviewing that ordinance and ask her to attend the meeting in October. being done, we will then move to public safety, police.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to provide clarification regarding the link that we received earlier. It sounded like, again, it's hard to hear it from my list, but it sounded like traffic interaction at the intersection here in Washington. Just want to clarify part of that intersection. Two stop signs are actually being on the jurisdiction. We also have stop sign at that intersection at the other jurisdiction. Either way, we will dedicate some resources to give that area attention. We'll also coordinate with the
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. Thank you for the clarification on that. I know Mr. Waller's not here to hear that, although I suspect that the University Heights police car is present for the stop sign that is on. Most of our motorists aren't going to know which stop sign that unit is out there looking.
presence of an officer will likely impact the situation.
Seem like.
Very
good. Any questions for Chief Ryan? Okay. Thank you, Chief. Public safety, fire, Chief Burko.
Thank you, Mayor, good evening, Council. 3 items to report this evening. As you all might be aware, the Cuyahoga County has an emergency operations plan. Within that plan, it addresses various hazard and disaster response recovery measures in the county. Part of that is a all hazard mitigation plan. Currently, the county has a plan in place that encompasses from 2017 to 2022. In 2018, I came to you to adopt that plan, as most of the suburbs in the county have adopted. Each year, they've done an annual review process in which we maintain identifying hazards within our own community to submit to the county. Recently, been attending an open house and some planning meetings as they update this for the next cycle. This will identify potential risks and vulnerabilities in the city, and I've read the point this time with the county that they're seeking input from the residents in those communities. So we'll be posting a online public survey link on behalf of the county to see if anyone in the community has any hazards they would like to voice. We'll have that posted on our social media page and get the information out. Residents will have to the end of October to submit any feedback. Second item is that the fire department is hosting an open house that is on October 3rd at 11:30. We'll put an agenda together and that will be displayed on the website and social media as well. Lastly, our fall hydrant flushing and flowing will commence beginning of October. We'll try to identify areas in the city that we're doing that work in via signs out in the community and online as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Burko. Any questions for Chief Burko? Seeing none. Thank you, Chief. Next director's report is service. Mr. Cronin.
Only items I have to report on tonight are the closing of the pool is almost complete and estimated costs together. Second item, everybody has to keep their yard waste in lawn leaf bags. We collect those on your garbage day for itself.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Corney. Any questions for Mr. Corney? I'd be remiss if I did not remind the community that leaves leave faster when you bag them. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Corney. Next is building. I know Mr. White cannot be here this evening. Do we have a report from everybody for building? If not, then we will move on to housing and community development. Mr. Engelbrecht, you have the floor.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Engelbrecht. Are there any questions for Mr. Engelbrecht? Seeing none, thank you, sir. We now move on to the city engineer, Mr. Cheney. Do you have a report in addition to anything you said earlier?
No report.
No report tonight. Very good, thank you. Communications and civic engagement, Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Want to echo what Representative Foley said when he was here. Ben Schaefer is doing a fantastic job with the city. We had a fantastic person in Rachel Mullen in the position, and we replaced Rachel with more fantastic. And Ben Schaefer, Ben and I are working closely on Fall Fest, and I think it's going to be a great event on Sunday, October 10th at the Waltz from 1 to 5 p.m. We're going to have a great news dance band we call in 2019 last time we had the event. We had about 35 or so park vendors. We're close to about 50 as of this evening. We're hoping to get that number up a little higher because we have a wonderful park and we have plenty of room. So should be a great event. I can assure you that it will not rain. Promise. But one thing in college was that's the claim. So just go with that. It will not rain. Any questions?
Very good, thank you, Mr. Cook. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Cook? All right, seeing none. We will now move to economic development, Mrs. Drucker.
No report tonight.
No report. Okay, Mr. Rowe.
Sorry for making you come all the way up here. Could you give us an update on the ZoneCo proposal, when that contract will be executed, what our next steps are so we can get the committee going?
In light of current litigation, I am holding that in abeyance. In light of the current litigation, I'm holding that in abeyance. The pricing is good until May of next year.
Okay. This is litigation regarding the zoning?
Yeah, regarding the zoning and public safety issues that are pending before the city.
Okay.
Thank you. We now turn to the standing committees, building and housing, Mrs. Blanco.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm delighted to hear that the city is finally going to be able to, thanks to the ARPA funds, help our residents that have so much flooding every time it rains. I have had a flurry, including just this last Sunday, of sit-downs with residents who are so distressed and thinking of moving because every time there's a good rain, they have a good 18 inches of actual sewage in the basement. And it's been a difficult and very frustrating road to getting help. So thanks to the ARPA funding, I had spoken with our law director and finance director, and I believe Mr. Cheney had a question posed to him about the cost of how we could remedy this. And so I'm delighted. I actually texted one of the residents that I spoke with on Sunday, and they were very excited. So I'm delighted to hear that that's finally going to happen. Other than that, we have a poll going for a building and housing committee meeting in early October to explore the process of point of sale inspections. Other than that, I can report. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Mrs. Blanco. Community outreach, Mrs. Pardee.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick update. Thank you. The Technology Advisory Commission, made up of residents of the city, is looking at having a new chair, and we expect to have an appointment by the mayor at the next council meeting.
Yeah, that is the anticipation.
Yes, yes. So then we'll be able to get that committee going again. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Mrs. Pardee. Economic development, Mr. Rock.
Yes, Mayor. So our committee will be working with the stakeholders of the new zoning project that we're working on right now. That's on hold until we get that moving. So I expect at some point we'll get those meetings going with our stakeholders.
We will. Thank you, Mr. Rock. Finance, Mrs. White.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We have, hopefully we'll have a finance meeting on October 4th. We're waiting for a couple
Thank you, Mrs. Weiss. Recreation, Mr. Erdl.
No report, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Erdl. Safety, Mrs. Berry.
Safety committee, met the hour before this meeting, and, we anticipate having at least one ordinance on our next meeting. And, we're also looking into, hiring, changing our ordinance, that deals with hiring, police and that will be in the
Yes, that would be the charter amendment we're considering. Yes, okay. Very good, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Berry.
Service and Utilities, Mr. Gould.
Thank you, Mayor. We'd like to schedule the meeting we originally had planned last week. It will be to discuss recommendations on the solid waste study, the solid waste study. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Gould. And Committee of the Whole, Mrs. White.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So what we discussed today about the electric scooters, in the next meeting or two, we will have an ordinance that will be slightly different than other cities, just because, first of all, it's going to be a trial period, and we are unique in terms of we are more residential than commercial, so it will have a different flavor than other cities, but we're excited to see how this pilot pans out.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mrs. Weiss. We're now at the conclusion of our regular meeting agenda. There being no further business, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn by Mr. Gould. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Berry. Mrs. Thomas, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Brinkel? Aye. Mr. Berry? Aye. Mrs. Pardee?
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss?
Aye.
Mr. Erdl?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye. Very good. Our next regular meeting is Monday, October 4, 2021, at 7 p.m. right here in Line 4, Wiley Media Room. We are adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night.
We don't know how long. It'll be,